Last week we talked about the first part of the achievement triangle, right? Which are the three parts of success in sales. The first part of the achievement triangle that we talked about was the activity part, your actions. What are you doing on a regular basis to grow your business, right? And we talked about how important goals are and why you're doing it. And then the second part was what's your plan? How are you going to make the goal and the vision happen? And the last part, first part, whatever, is what are you doing on a daily and weekly basis to make your dreams come true, if you will, your goals happen, to achieve that stuff. And so that's the first part. But today we're going to talk about the second part of the achievement triangle, which is your attitude. And believe it or not, there are three parts to this too. The first is the belief in yourself. The second is the belief in your company. And the third is the belief in your marketplace, right? And up here in this part of the achievement triangle, we're talking about attitude. This is where all excuses are made. This is where we say things like, well, my company kind of sucks, or, nobody's buying this marketplace, which, we're starting to hear a lot of in this quote recession that people are signing up for at this point. But let me go back and start with the belief in self, right? Belief in self is, do you see yourself as somebody who is going to naturally win? Do you see yourself as somebody who doesn't mind trying stuff and failing and taking the failure as a win? Funny, I saw a chart yesterday that said that, in effect, we learn about this much from the intellectual study of something. We learn about 3 times that much from actually doing something, but we learn about twice more than that from failing, right? That's where most of our learning, our best learning happens, is after we fail. And so it's interesting, we've got this tension where a lot of people say failure is not an option and I can't fail, or I don't want to be a failure. Well, failure is not static. Failure is something that happens when you try sometimes, right? When you go give it a shot and conditions weren't right, or you didn't hit it right, or you screwed it up somehow, that's failure. And as my great philosopher Steve Sims says, nobody drowns from falling in the water. You drown from failing to get out, right? So it's not what you do that causes the problem, it's what you do next. So a lot of times past failures in our life can impact us, meaning maybe you've had a bad relationship with your parents or your spouse, or maybe you just had or your boss, right? And you have internalized that as somehow I am not good enough. Or you believe that maybe from the way you were brought up, that you're not supposed to be here. You're not supposed to make this much money. Somehow your internal programming is that. And so that's super important. It's not something that we often recognize. It's something you got to look back in yourself and say, what are the reasons that I do what I do? What are some things that caused me pain or impacted me in some way that I'm still carrying around like old luggage? And it's an exercise that I do about twice a year, is I write down all the things, and I don't get them all because there'd be a million, that I'm mad at myself about, right? That I fucked up, that I screwed up, that are a mess. And I write them all down. Do the best I can. I can come up with 1,000. I probably stop at 50, maybe 75. And then I strike through them all and I say, I forgive myself. It's okay. I forgive myself. And it's amazing what happens. There's nothing that really happens there except for I acknowledge that it happens and then I let it go. And that's super important. Let that shit go. And also to look back and recognize, hey, here's some places I grew. This is super important to recognize, because we always, as a human being, we often don't think about the times that things good happened, right? Or that you have grown, because it's often not as obvious. But look back and notice where you were at the beginning of the year versus where you are now, and realize that's good. It does happen. Now, if you find yourself having been in business 10 years and having, basically 1 year experience 10 times, then maybe you need to make some changes there. Maybe you're stuck in a comfort zone and need to make some changes and see what they could be, right? So belief in yourself. Are you willing to fail? Are you willing to take risks? Do you take responsibility? In other words, instead of blaming your marketplace or your company or your dumb boss or your dumb customers or interest rates, be able to say, I hadn't figured out how to sell in this economic environment. I hadn't figured out how to get along with that client or prospect or customer. Hadn't figured out how to win this system that we're in right now. Own that shit. Don't make excuses, because excuses are like a cancer, right? You're making yourself a victim. Don't be a victim. Victim doesn't help ever. So, belief in yourself. The next is your belief in your company. Do you see them as being the problem? Now, I've been here before, right, where I blame my company for my lack of success. And as I look back now with 2020 vision, I see how freaking stupid that was. First of all, if your company is truly holding you back, if they're the reason you're not doing better, quit. Go somewhere else. Your competitors would love to have somebody like you, right? And you go over there and then see if they're the problem. And if they're the problem again, and you try a third time, wonder who the problem might be, right? Just know there's no perfect place. It's not going to happen. I have my company that I started my own. This is not perfect, but I cannot blame the company for holding me back, right? Because I created the company. The third part is your marketplace. This is kind of where a lot of people make excuses these days. Interest rates, it is the place, my territory, my whatever is not good enough, blah, 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 blah. Take ownership of that shit. Hadn't figured out how to sell enough in this marketplace. Hadn't figured out how to get somebody to buy double what they're buying now. Haven't figured out how to stop wasting time with people that are going to be stopped because they can't borrow the money. Right? Identify those things and get rid of them. Get rid of those excuses. Take ownership, take responsibility. And if you get down and you realize, my marketplace is dead as a hammer. Nobody's buying anything anywhere. Here's what I want you to know. There is somebody probably in your state, probably within 10 miles of you, who's making a fortune doing what you're doing. Now, if you can say that's absolutely false, there's no way in the world, then why the hell are you still in that business? Get out yourself and go do something else. Lots of opportunities. People are always hiring great salespeople. So far, we've talked about your actions that you're taking, right? And now the beliefs that you have. So it's amazing. If you're consistent with your actions, you'll find results. And that will help you with your belief. So work on your belief in yourself, work on the belief in your company, work on the belief in the marketplace. Do the things that are necessary so you can be strong, and you can strong mentally, emotionally, physically, so that you can perform in what may be a tougher marketplace than you've been in before. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Share this with somebody that needs to hear it.